Thank you very much. Okay, so my name is Brent Haas. I'm Associate Dean and Director of Admission Affairs here at Yenching Academy. Today, we're going to be giving you about an hour and a half long presentation in several parts. First, I will speak for about 40 minutes or so, and we'll give you quite a detailed introduction to our program at YCA. In so doing, I will be specifically focusing on the literature and culture research track. Once my presentation ends, we are very fortunate to welcome one of our illustrious alumni from the Yenching Academy, Joyce Fung, will join and will speak for 15-20 minutes or so about her motivation to apply to the program, her experiences here, what she studied, and what she's doing now. After that, we will be taking questions from the panelists or from the attendees of today's webinar. As this is a Zoom webinar, attendees will have their microphones muted and their cameras turned off for the majority of today's session. But if at any time you have questions, please feel free to type your questions into the Q&A function down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We will, during the course of our presentations, either have myself or Yenching Academy admissions staff answer your questions in the Q&A function, pardon me, or indicate that we will address those questions live. And please feel free to address your questions to me personally, to the admissions staff generally, or even to Joyce herself. Okay, with that having been said, let me have another sip of coffee and then we'll get started. All right, let's get going. Peking University is China's best and most respected institution of higher education. It's also the oldest. It was founded in 1898 as part of a comprehensive reform program initiated by the second to last emperor of the Qing dynasty, the Guangxu emperor, in what is called the 100 Days of Reform. Unfortunately, the 100 Days of Reform would temporarily be unsuccessful, but one of the lasting legacies of that reform movement in 1898 was the founding of Jingshi Daxuetang, the Imperial University of Peking, the precursor to what became Beijing University. Here you can see a photo on the right-hand side, a bird's eye view of our campus. For your information, Peking University is like most of the major universities in Beijing, is in the northwestern section of the city. If you know our geography, we have 6 ring roads that loop around the city. This is just outside the northwestern 4th ring road. You can see in the distance the western mountains that surround Beijing to the west and a little bit as well to the northwest. It's a really lovely campus. Next few slides will show some of the beautiful scenes at PKU's campus in different seasons. In the bottom left, you have Weiminghu, No Name Lake, which I think is probably the most attractive and the most frequently visited and photographed sections of the campus. Here are a couple other shots of Weiming Lake, as well as the pagoda on the edge of it and one of our concert halls. Jingyuan Courtyard is both a historically significant section of Peking University's campus and also where Yenching Academy has our administration and our teaching buildings. We also have been adopted by one of the many cats that roam around our campus. You can see Fengzhua on the left there. If you like cats or like animals, there's actually quite a dedicated group of Peking University students who spay and neuter the cats, who care for them, feed them, and are busy updating everyone on their daily activities through social media. Jingyuan was originally part of a campus of a university that was here at PKU, what is now PKU, known as Yenjing University. Despite Yenching Academy sharing a name with Yenching University, as well as sharing some of the same buildings, it's important to point out that Yenching University was not part of Peking University back in the early part of the 20th century. When Yenching University closed in 1952, Peking University, which used to be closer to the center of the city, a little bit to the northeast of the Forbidden City within the 2nd Ring Road of today, PKU then moved its faculty and students out to the current campus where we are now. PKU today has over 11,500 faculty members divided into 51 different schools and departments, as well as 10 national key laboratories. This faculty, as well as the dedicated and professional administrative staff at the university, serve over 46,000 full-time students and 4,400, give or take, international students. So what is the Yenching Academy at Peking University? Well, most simply, we are a 2-year, fully funded master's program in China Studies. We explore contemporary China, its changes that took place really over the last 4 decades or so during the Reform and Opening period, and how those changes have not only altered Chinese life, society, economics, politics, what have you, but also changed China's role in the world. Now, having run the admissions system at YCA for the last several years, as well as having had the privilege of teaching 4 classes of Yenjin scholars myself, I can personally attest that those who join our program are outstanding. They're highly accomplished, they're brilliant, they're interesting, they're curious, and they're challenging in the best possible intellectual way. So if you can join our program, I think, like most people say, the opportunity to get to know, to work with, and to become friends and colleagues with other Yenjin scholars is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, selling point of the program. We're also involved in an interesting experiment in both bringing best practices of interdisciplinary teaching and interdisciplinary research methodology to the already quite fully formed system of Chinese higher education at the graduate level. As part of this process of integrating interdisciplinarity into graduate education at Peking University, we're also experimenting with defining what China studies as an academic discipline means, but not just the China studies that perhaps you are familiar with from the traditional history of missionaries, sinologists, area studies outside of China, but what it means to be doing interdisciplinary China studies at China's top university with China's top faculty. And this last talking point here, a catalyst for international dialogue, sounds quite perhaps insincere, but it is actually quite true. When you are joined together with a group of like-minded but diverse colleagues and classmates from all around the world with different cultural, national, religious, educational, and professional backgrounds, but all with a shared interest in better understanding China, whether you're in the classroom, discussing readings, engaging in debates perhaps, or in the cafeteria, in the dormitory, or just walking around campus, you will find that the rewarding, enriching, and sometimes challenging conversations are very easily understood as a form of international dialogue. So YCA is a residential college program. So what that means is that all Yenjin scholars in their first year are required to live together in the Yenjin Academy House, a dormitory specifically renovated and set aside for Yenjin scholars. I'll tell you a little bit more about funding, but we are a 2-year fully funded master's program. Now, there are some differences, however, in the student experience. First, international students and all students in general will have an academic review at the end of their first year. We have some key performance standards in the classroom that as long as you meet the standards, which are laid out to you at the beginning of the program, you then apply for the second-year fellowship, and we just conduct an academic review. If you meet the standards, you will get your second-year fellowship. International students are only required to live on campus for the first year. They can choose or apply to live on campus for the second year, but we need to make sure there's enough space. Scholars from the Chinese mainland and from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, however, are required to live on campus in the dormitory for both years. Now, the language of instruction at YCA is English. You do not have to have prior knowledge or proficiency in the Chinese language to be admitted to the program. Now, that having been said, since we are a fully funded, highly competitive graduate program that focuses on China studies, we do welcome applicants who have previous academic training in topics related to China or East Asia, and that certainly includes Chinese language. Now, don't worry, you will be able to practice your Chinese. You will hear students and staff interacting in Chinese. You will be able to reach out to other Peking University faculty and students in Chinese if your language level is sufficient. We not only encourage, we really push students to try to integrate into the broader PKU academic community. And one of the most important ways of doing that is by taking courses taught in other departments and schools at PKU, so outside of the courses on offer by YCA. In general, for most international students specifically, that will include course offerings in English. But if you have a highly advanced or proficient or perhaps are a native Chinese speaker, you are able to take content courses taught in Chinese. Let's talk funding. So the Yenjing Academy Fellowship offers tuition, fully covered, accommodation for year one in the Yenjing Academy house. If you are an international student and you pass the academic review at the end of your first year, so you have your second year fellowship, you can choose to live off campus in Beijing. If you live off campus in Beijing, we will give you a housing stipend of 3,000 renminbi per month. Now that'll be sufficient to cover a solo room, an individual private room in a shared apartment, but it's not really enough nowadays to cover an apartment on your own, at least somewhere within the broadly defined city limits. We have a monthly stipend for living expenses, also of 3,000 renminbi per month. I haven't checked the today's exchange rate, but that's going to be about $650 a month. We offer a travel stipend for one round trip ticket airfare from your home base to and from Beijing in your first year. And we offer students basic medical insurance. This medical insurance is a specific medical policy designed for international students living and studying in China. Now we have other funding opportunities as well. In the first year, the most notable one is the Dean's Research Grant. This is a competitive research funding opportunity for individual or group research projects designed by Yenjing scholars in their first year. These are extracurricular research funding opportunities. So students will either join in a group or individually write a formal research proposal early in their first year as a Yenjing scholar. If the Yenjing Academy faculty and staff think that this is an interesting project, if they think it is practical and doable within the time restraints and appropriate for a first-year master's student, and if we think that there's a possibility that this research can make a contribution to the field of China studies broadly defined, then we will fund you for your first-year Dean's Research Grant. In the second year, we have other funding opportunities, certain positions like teaching assistantships, residential assistantships, office positions, as well as we offer opportunity grants. These are grants for Yenjing scholars to participate in important academic events, like, say, presenting a paper at an international academic conference. Furthermore, we also offer the Language Enrichment Fellowship to a limited number of Yenjing scholars in their second year. This is for continued intensive language study. For international students, that will mean Chinese. For native Chinese students, that can be a second foreign language. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this slide, our research areas, because it's important for you to understand how research areas are important to your experience at Yenjing Academy. So I mentioned we're in the process of defining interdisciplinary China studies within the context of a Chinese university. China studies is a fairly new academic area of research in mainland China. And so the way that we've been able to receive approval for our educational plan within the guidelines of the recognized degrees set by China's Ministry of Education is the creation of China studies within 6 research areas. These research areas will be important to your academic experience at YCA in 3 main ways. The first is at the application stage. When you apply to Yenjing Academy, you need to choose one of these 6 research areas in which to focus your master's thesis research. Now, what does that mean? That means that you obviously want to choose something you're interested in. Graduate school is hard. It is intellectually taxing, and you need to be fascinated by the topic that you plan on studying and researching for the next 2 years. But you also need to be strategic with which research area you choose, because part of the admissions staff and my role in the admissions process is to assess whether or not you can be successful at the graduate level at China's top university, conducting research in this research area and producing a master's thesis that can be successfully defended and can meet the very exacting standards of Peking University. So what that means is we're going to look at your previous degree or degrees. We're going to look at the courses you've taken. We're going to look at any publications or research experience you have. We're going to look at perhaps, are there internship or professional experiences that connect to the research area to which you're applying. The goal of this is to ensure that you are reasonably set up for success conducting graduate level research once you arrive here. That doesn't mean, however, that you can only apply to literature and culture if you majored in comparative literature, or if you majored in East Asian languages and civilizations. That's not what we're saying. What I am saying, however, is if your previous degrees or majors or coursework don't appear to match up easily to the research area that you are applying for, please anticipate that we're going to have questions about that and try to address our potential questions in some of your application materials. So the second way that your research area will affect your academic experience at YCA is in the selection of a thesis advisor for your second year. The thesis advisor must be from, we're using literature and culture as the example here, from one of the departments or schools that has a research expertise in the area broadly defined as literature and culture. Essentially, you can't have an economics professor advise a master's thesis on comparative literature. And then finally, this research area will be important when you graduate. After you've successfully defended your thesis, and your thesis has been finally approved by the Academic Review Board at Peking University, your diploma will include this research area. Pardon me. It will say Peking University, Master of Literature, China Studies, Literature and Culture, or Peking University, Master of Economics, China Studies, Economics and Management, Peking University, Master of History, China Studies, History and Archaeology. This is how we have fit interdisciplinary China Studies within a research area into the previously existing system of degree recognition in the PRC today. Okay, sorry, I was trying to turn on my air conditioning and it didn't work. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the core courses that all first-year Yenjing scholars need to attend. You can see those courses in the upper left. Very briefly, China in Transition is a 2-semester course that is an interdisciplinary look at contemporary China. The first semester is co-taught by a team of top professors at different departments and schools at PKU. It's organized in a large once-a-week lecture combined with immediate breakout discussion sections led by teaching assistants, but during which the faculty members who's teaching that segment of the course will pop into the discussions and participate. We have modules, sort of one on Chinese culture, Chinese history, Chinese religion, Chinese economics, Chinese society, etc. The goal of this is to give you not only an interdisciplinary look at contemporary China, but also to introduce you to some of the core faculty that work with the Yenching Academy and are from different departments and schools. The second semester of China in Transition, students choose one of the faculty members that co-taught the first semester course, and they join their smaller class. This class uses that professor's area of expertise, their research methodology, to dive deeper into an understanding of contemporary China using their research methodology. And in that course, students, under the guidance of the course professor, will design and carry out a field research project. This is also intended to give you some on-the-ground field research experience in China before you start your master's thesis research in year 2. Field study is a required course that takes the learning experience not only outside of the classroom, but outside of Beijing. You will have lectures, readings, sometimes films and documentaries to prepare yourself for a week-long intensive travel learning experience where we take all first-year Yenjing scholars to a different city or region around China and explore its history, its ecology, its political structure, its contemporary economy, its culture, its cuisine, etc. The China Studies Lecture Series is a year-long series of lectures and seminars given by leaders in different fields that are connected to China. They can be different academics, they can be artists, diplomats, business leaders, you name it. I am actually hosting one of the Topics in China Studies lectures tomorrow, and it is a professor at Peking University who's going to talk about the political and social negotiation process that was involved in creating one of the real, maybe not miracles, but one of the real accomplishments of China's infrastructure building over the last 20 years, its high-speed rail network. And then academic writing is a series of lectures and seminars taught by different PKU faculty that give you, from different disciplinary lenses, step-by-step guidance in deciding on a topic, designing it, analyzing your data, drafting your thesis, defending your thesis, sort of a step-by-step process in the second year thesis research and writing process, and we offer that to you in your first year. All international students at the Yenching Academy must take Chinese language courses, unless within the last 2 years, you have passed the HSK level 6. The HSK is the standardized test in mainland China for assessing Chinese language proficiency for non-native learners. If you have an HSK 6, you can pass out of the Chinese as a second language required courses, but you must still fulfill those course credits, and we encourage you to do so with at least one content course taught in Chinese in another department in school. It's a very exciting opportunity, but a big challenge as well. Native Chinese speakers from the Chinese mainland, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan are required to take a foreign language course, non-English foreign language course. These next two slides are some of the electives, or the electives that are on offer by Yenching Academy in the 2022 to 23 academic year. Here you can see those that are classified as literature and culture on the right-hand side. Reading classical Chinese, or contemporary Chinese fiction and comparative perspective, cultural history of film in Shanghai, guided readings, the ancient Chinese literary text, art of China. The next slide will be in more focused on the social sciences and economics. But I want to emphasize, despite the fact that these courses are, in columns that are defined by the research areas, you are not restricted to taking elective courses only in the research area to which you have applied. We are an interdisciplinary program. We want you to pick and choose the courses that are most interesting to you. Perhaps there's some courses in areas that you feel you need to strengthen your knowledge base. We want you to take that course. Perhaps there are courses that are outside of literature and culture, but you think might be helpful for you to give you some training for an interdisciplinary research project for your master's thesis. We want you to take that course. So you can and are encouraged to take courses broadly, irrespective of the research area in which it is listed. Here are some of the politics and international relations, economics and management, and law and society defined courses here. So there's a lot of interesting things you can take, and we hope that you, with your faculty advisor in your first year, will be strategic about the courses. Take ones you're interested in, but also take ones that you think might set you up to be a better researcher for your master's thesis. If anyone is interested, I am teaching this year History of the Field, Sinology and China Studies from a Global Perspective, as well in the fall. And in the spring, I'm teaching the Modern Chinese History Seminar that will most likely be a retrospective of the historical works of the late Yale professor, Jonathan D. Spence. So looking at his writing on late imperial and modern Chinese history. And I'll also be teaching one of the general elective courses here, critical thinking and academic writing. Over the last few years, here's just a slice of the master's thesis topics that scholars in the literature and culture track have completed. So Chinese painting, the Tao and the artistic life, masculinity, failure and desire, and fortress besieged, and rickshaw. So a literature course, two very, very famous novels from the 20th century. Looking at Chinese science fiction, Li Cixin's Three-Body Problem, internet literature, political imaginaries of transnational. So there's a lot of different ways you can define, create, and carry out a thesis project within literature and culture. One of the real unique selling points of YCA, especially within the context of China's system of graduate education, is our advisors system. We have 140 academic advisors from 24 different schools and departments at PKU. Here you can see them listed here. Most Yenching scholars will have 2 academic advisors in their 2 years at YCA. The first year will be a faculty advisor. You will mutually select your advisor and they will select you as an advisee. That person will be there to help introduce you to the academic community at PKU, learn about your developing research interests, potentially help you select courses that might be good for you to study. And if that person is an expert in the field you're interested in, wonderful. If not, they will be able to point you in the direction of other faculty members that you should get to know. They can introduce you so you can talk about your research with them. Some students have their first year faculty advisor become their second year thesis advisor. I believe Joyce, who will be talking after I'm done, is one such example. And that's wonderful if it happens, but it's not required. Since you choose your faculty advisor within a month of arriving at YCA, and we just don't think it's reasonable for newly arrived graduate students to be able to decide on a thesis advisor that early in their academic journey at YCA. I'm going to skip through these next slides very quickly in the interest of time. There's some shots from our fall field study. For the first few years, we took students to Xi'an in Shanxi province. The last few years, we've been taking students to Sichuan province, mainly Chengdu, its surroundings, as well as a little bit of a trip into some of the surrounding areas of Chongqing municipality. So yes, when you're in Chengdu, we're going to eat spicy Sichuan cuisine. We're going to go to a tea house. We're going to see pandas, but you're also going to visit high-tech industrial parks, go to hear a presentation from the founder of a early warning natural disaster system. Not only go to a famous archaeological site and visit the museum, the Sanxingdui site, but also actually go to the archaeological excavation pit itself and watch Peking University archaeologists in action. It is a unique opportunity and an intense learning experience, but also fun. Here you can see in the Springfield study, this is part of the second half of China in Transition. The different groups of students have been visiting different sites around China as part of their second semester of China in Transition field research project. Whether it's in the first semester of your academic year, or your first academic year, the fall semester, or the spring semester, we also encourage our faculty members to integrate field study or site visits into their elective courses, all of this funded by YCA. Our colleagues in the Student Affairs Office have been continuously improving our career development services for Yenching scholars. We have recruiting visits from international organizations, from private businesses. We have sharing sessions, panels of young professionals talking about the journeys they've taken, most of them after having left YCA. We also have a professional mentor system where you can choose different professionals in fields outside of direct academia. Most of them are limited to Beijing just for convenience's sake, where you can meet with them, learn about their path, share your goals and interests, perhaps do some sort of professional shadowing and things like that. After graduation, Yenching scholars have been very successful in taking the next step in their career, whether it's academic. You can see here some of the top schools that Yenching scholars have gone on to further education. We generally have about 20 to 25% of Yenching scholars go on to further graduate study, mainly at the doctoral level, but some to law school or even medical school. Then you can see some of the international organizations, private businesses, et cetera, that Yenching scholars go to in the next step in their young careers. YGS, the Yenching Global Symposium, is our flagship student-run extracurricular event. It is a highly competitive international China Studies conference that focuses on participants and delegates who are at the early stages in their career. You can see some of the themes designed by and carried out by Yenching scholars in the first 5 of our YGSs. this year's, the 2022 Yenjin Global Symposium, tackled with issues of anti-globalization. Globalization over the last several decades, the increasing nationalism, the increasing role of individual nation states in the international order, and what that means as the world tries to transition out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, some stats. We have had just under 860 Yenjing scholars in our first 8 cohorts, and they come from 84 different countries and regions. We are a very culturally and nationally diverse student body. Of course, we do need to improve our diversity in the admissions process. As you can see, there is an underrepresentation of African and South or Latin American students. Please rest assured that we recognize that and are working to improve it. These are the top 18 universities out of 350, give or take, that have placed graduates at the Yenjing Academy. This list here are some of the best universities in the world, but I want to emphasize that you don't have to be from one of the Ivy Leagues or Oxbridge or what have you to be able to get into the program. These are simply the universities that have placed the highest number of graduates at YCA over the first 8 cohorts. Most Yenjing scholars apply in their final year of their undergraduate degree, and so enter directly after graduating from university, but not everyone. Some have worked for a few years. Most have a highest academic degree of a bachelor's, but there is a significant number who also have graduate degrees, generally master's or law school degrees. We welcome those applicants as well. I would say it's roughly about 15–20% of Yenjing scholars already have a postgraduate degree. This is the breakdown of the research areas in all 8 cohorts of Yenjing scholars. The humanities are fairly underrepresented, making up roughly 20%, give or take. Law and society is also about 15–16%. Economics and management and politics and international relations are by far the most popular of the research concentrations at YCA. I want to emphasize this is not an intentional spread of research areas. We don't have a quota. We would like to have more of an even spread between all of our research areas. As an historian myself, I would love to see more of the humanities represented, but we don't do it that way. What this only indicates is these are the research areas chosen by the best applicants in any given year at YCA. For the 2022 8th cohort of Yenjing scholars, we had 111 scholars from 27 different countries and regions. You can see some of the breakdown, regional breakdown here. And we had scholars from 96 different universities. And here you can see the top 18 universities that placed the highest number of graduates at Yenjing Academy. Okay, another sip of coffee, and I'll do my last section when we talk about the application process. So what are we looking for in a prospective applicant? Here you can see some information on the slide. But we are a really competitive program to get into. We have students from the best universities in the world. We have incredibly talented students. So an outstanding academic record is something we highly value. People often ask in these information sessions, what's the minimum GPA? Or if I have second honors instead of second honors with distinction or first honors, can I get in? We don't have a hard cutoff on GPA or honors level. But what I can say is we're a competitive program. We value academic excellence. We expect it in our students when they arrive. And so your academic performance in undergrad and other graduate programs is important, very important. But that's not all we look for. We also are interested in things outside of the classroom that have taken up a lot of your time, your energy, that maybe define who you are as a young person. Are you an artist, a musician, an athlete? Have you started your own company? Are you committed to charity work, to social justice, to improving the lives of people in your communities? In what ways have you been a leader in the classroom, outside of the classroom? These are things that we're all interested in understanding, so we can get a better picture of who you are, as well as a better anticipation of the ways in which you might add to our student community at YCA. Since we're so multicultural and so diverse, we appreciate applicants who have experience with multiculturalism or a commitment to multicultural understanding. We also value applicants who have a strong interest in understanding China. We want scholars to join us who have, East Asian languages and literatures degree, who focused on Chinese politics in their undergraduate or other graduate degree programs. We like those kind of students, but that's not the only profile we're looking for. We want the fully formed China nerds when they're coming out of college. We want some scholars who want to go on to graduate degrees and become, professors related and researchers related to Chinese history, or work in think tanks related to China. We want that kind of student, certainly. But we also want students who have excelled in other areas of academic inquiry or other professional experiences. Maybe you are trained in AI and the ethics of AI. And now you realize at a certain point as you're finishing your bachelor's degree that you need to understand what's happening in China in relation to the field that you're already becoming an expert in. And YCA is the opportunity for you to increase your knowledge about China and apply your knowledge from another field to the study of China. We want students like that as well. And we also just want students who are brilliant and fascinating and think this seems like a good opportunity. So for me personally, I think it's beneficial to have students with not only different cultural and national backgrounds, but with different degrees of educational, professional, or personal experience relating to China. If everyone in our program had a degree that had China or East Asia in the name of the degree, then it wouldn't be that interesting. You'd have people with a much more similar knowledge base who might react similarly to the same readings and discussions and ask the same questions. That's not what we're looking for. And just like applying to any graduate program, you need a good reason for choosing YCA. What is your rationale? Why are you attracted to this program? Where do you want to go in your career, and how can what you learn here with us help you achieve those goals? And as I've emphasized a couple of times, English proficiency is required. Okay, so in essence, there are three application systems for coming to Yenching Academy. Those for international students, those from students from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, and those for students from mainland China. For mainland Chinese students, PRC citizens, the only way to apply to the Yenching Academy is through the exemption from the National Postgraduate Entrance Examination. That means mainland Chinese students must attend an undergraduate program in mainland China, and through their academic performance, their GPA, their ranking, their letters of recommendation, qualify within their department or school for 推免, recommendation for exemption from the postgraduate entrance examination. Unfortunately, PRC citizens who do their undergraduate study abroad are currently not eligible to apply. International students apply to the application portal on our website. I'll show you that coming up in a second. It will be open. It's open on August 15th and will close on November 27th. It's a standard application, application form, CV, transcripts, etc., personal statement, statement of research interest, letters of recommendation, etc. Scholars from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan must do both the application system on our website like international students do, but also HMT applicants must also complete a Peking University graduate school application portal separately. So HMT applicants, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwanese applicants need to do both YCA's application and the PKU graduate school application specifically for HMT applicants. The minimum qualification for consideration to be a member of the ninth cohort of Yenjin scholars is completing your bachelor's degree by August 31st of 2023. Essentially, You can't go to grad school until you finish undergrad. So, international candidates. Our application system closes on November 27th, 2022. You need an online application at yenchingacademy.metapply.cn. If you are not a native English speaker and you did not enroll in a college or university that uses English as the primary language of instruction, we'll need to see a certificate of English proficiency, IELTS, TOEFL, Cambridge, etc. We need to see your diplomas from all institutions of higher education from which you have received a degree. If you are currently enrolled in a program, say your bachelor's degree or a master's degree, we need to see an official certificate of enrollment from the university registrar. We need to see official transcripts from your bachelor's degree program and your master's degree program. Don't worry, we know that especially in the UK system, you're not going to get a transcript for the year in which you're applying to YCA until at the end of that year. We understand that. We need a personal statement in English, maximum 750 words. This is your standard grad school application essay. Who you are, what stands out about your experience and your personality, why you're interested in YCA, how you can contribute to our program, what you hope to study at YCA, where your career is going, and how you think we can help you achieve those goals. We also have a statement of research interest. This used to be called a research proposal, but we thought that a research proposal sounded too formal and too restrictive. Statement of research interest, maximum 1,500 words in English, excluding citations, is a little bit broader than a formal research proposal, because your statement of research interest can be a formal research proposal, but only if you already have a fully formed research project that you want to study while at YCA. Do not submit research proposals from previous research projects or current ongoing research projects. We want to see what you're interested in studying potentially for your master's thesis at Yenching Academy. This is, however, a formal piece of academic writing. It should explain what your academic interests are from a research perspective. It should locate your potential research project within academic literature in the field or fields with which you'll be engaging. It should tell us how you think this can make a contribution, why it's interesting. This is in essence your research-focused academic introduction to us at YCA. We want to see your resume and CV, and we must see two letters of recommendation. Now, there's some important standards for this. They must be academic letters of recommendation, and they must be from associate professors, full professors, or higher. Unfortunately, assistant professors do not qualify. This is the standard for top graduate programs in China. If you have an assistant professor or other, maybe a manager, an internship, or et cetera, that wants to write a letter for you, we welcome that, but you need to submit it as an additional document, and it can't replace the 2 academic letters of recommendation requirement. Couple of differences for applicants from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. The YCA application portal opens on August 15th, but the deadline for submitting your application for Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwanese candidates is a little bit later, and that deadline will be set by Peking University's graduate school. Please go to our website and look at the detailed application instructions for HMT candidates. If you do not complete both YCA's application and PKU graduate school application, you are ineligible for consideration. Couple of clarifications here about HMT candidates requirements. If you have not yet graduated or obtained a degree from an English taught degree program, you need to submit a certificate of English proficiency. If, say, you are applying as a young professional who already has a bachelor's degree from an American university, then that bachelor's degree is significant. It signifies that you have sufficient English language proficiency to attend our program. If you are a current student, you don't have a diploma, and therefore that does not signify that you can complete studies in English. So you will need IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge. And then the other distinction is that the letters of recommendation must be academic, must be from associate professors or full professors only, but they must be teaching in the field to which you're applying. So if you are applying for literature and culture, you need to have someone write your letters of recommendation from literature or culture broadly defined. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. I hope it's been informative and not too overwhelming. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at yca-admissions@pku.edu.cn. Go to our website, in English, yenchingacademy.pku.edu.cn. Go to the website, look at our program, get to know the faculty there, look at how we structure the program, make sure you're familiar with the admissions process, but also look at the profiles of current Yenjin scholars. I hope that in so doing, you will realize that there isn't one type of person we're looking for to become a Yenjin scholar. There isn't one single academic profile or professional background that we want for Yenjin scholars. People are able to join our program from different walks of life, from different backgrounds, different interests, different professional experiences, and do interesting things here. And there's our, you can see our social media presences, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and WeChat. Thank you very much for your patience and for your attention. I am now going to stop sharing my screen and welcome to the stage Joyce Fung, a recent graduate of the Yenjing Academy. Joyce, always good to see you again. She is going to take over now and give her presentation, and I will be paying attention to the Q&A. So if you have any questions for myself, for the admission staff, or for Joyce in particular, please go ahead and type them into the Q&A. Thanks, Joyce.
Hi, Brent. Thank you. Yeah, and thanks all for coming to this sharing session, because I graduated in July and I've been missing Yenching Academy, and this is like homecoming for me. So let me share my PowerPoint. So I'll start with a self-introduction, then I'll talk more about my motivation and time in Yenching Academy, and then I'll go into an exhibition that I directed and created to give you a case study of how someone in Yenching Academy can create something for themselves and the academy and create themselves as well. So to introduce myself, my name is Joyce, and I'm a 2020 Yenching scholar. I was born and raised in Hong Kong, China. I studied in the US, Germany, and China. Now I work in the Philippines and Indonesia. So for my BA, I studied at Harvard. I studied art and philosophy. I earned some awards and honors. For my extracurriculars, I did mostly academic and artistic research. And then eventually I came to Yenching Academy. I studied literature and culture, in particular art theory. And for my extracurriculars, in my first year, I created an exhibition, and I'll talk more about that later. And in my second year, I co-taught a master studio seminar at the College of Architecture and Landscape, Peking University. So for my work and internship experience, before coming to Yenching Academy, I have interned at Sotheby's in Hong Kong and Auction House as a pitch maker. I have also interned at Sauber Cotton in Berlin, Germany as a model maker. And after Yenching Academy, I have been working in Manila for Made By as a co-founder. It's a bed, bath, and lifestyle brand for business. And I have also been an artist resident at the Archipelago in Jakarta, which is a collective of refugee artists and writers. And we're trying to build a house of arts. And I'll tell you more about that later. And I do think my work in Made By and my work in the Archipelago actually comes out from my time at the Yenching Academy. And I'll explain a little bit that more later. And then I'll tell you more about why 2 years ago I applied for Yenching Academy. So for myself, being born and raised in Hong Kong, I think I've always been sort of born and raised between the East and the West. So then personally, when I was in Harvard in my senior year, I had been 5 years in the US and in Germany. So I've been 5 years in the West. And I think a large part of me was really missing the East in terms of the Eastern part of the world and the Eastern part of myself. So I was feeling a bit diasporic and I wanted to return to home. And so that's why I applied for Yenching Academy in Beijing, the capital of China. And professionally, I think having learned and been trained in art and philosophy in the US and in Germany for 5 years, Of course, I could spend my whole life continuing that, but then it felt to me that I was reaching, or I was starting to sense a limit in a kind of more Western approach of the world. And I think however sophisticated, however diversified, however many Westerns there are, it's still one system. And to any one system, there's a limitation. And I really wanted to break free from that limitation. So I decided that I wanted a counterculture or a counter system that's also as developed or more developed than, so to say, the Western philosophical and artistic system, to counterbalance and to kind of push that limit and to break free from it. And I think these two motivations that I had for applying for YCA eventually became my realities out from YCA as well. So for my thesis, I can share a little bit more, because for my thesis itself, I wrote a thesis called A Story of Art and Emptiness and Restart. So I think like Yenching Academy, it's a bit interdisciplinary. It's also a bit intercultural. It's interdisciplinary because it's between art and philosophy. I was working with the philosophies of Arthur Danto, Michel Foucault, and also Zen. So kind of between East and West. And I was working with the art of Andy Warhol, of Catalan, of Kusama and Su. So American, Italian, Japanese and Chinese, quite intercultural as well. But I specifically want to tell you more about my experience with my advisor, Professor Peng Feng. So as Brent said, first and second year, he doubled as my advisors. Basically, Professor Peng Feng, born and raised in a village, is now the Dean of the School of Arts. And he also represented the whole of China in the Venice Biennale in 2011, which is like the Olympics of the arts. And personally with him, I think I had the best experience working closely, because in the second year when I was writing my thesis, we would meet every 2-3 weeks, and then we would talk about our thesis, art, and life over lunch or dinner. And then we would walk by the lake, the Weiming Lake. And then I think he really cared for me as a person, but importantly also as both an academic and an artist, right? So for example, he would invite me to shows and openings. He would introduce me to his artist friends, such as Su Byung, who I wrote my thesis about. He would even lend me his car to go to Songzhuang, which is the kind of art colony in the far east of Beijing. And so then Professor Peng, we're still in touch. And I think after graduation, he's been kind of giving me tips and advices about how to build my artistic vocation. So I'm very grateful for him, because I think he started out as my advisor in my first year, but now I think he has become my sort of mentor, and will be, I think, throughout my artistic and personal life. And I had the best experience in working with him. And I'm thinking that for you too, you might sort of end up meeting your advisor who will also become a mentor for your career and your life. So then, yeah, like, quite briefly about my experience as a Yenching scholar. Again, I thought it was quite interdisciplinary and also intercultural. As Brent said, HMT scholars, for example, with maybe like a higher level Mandarin, could actually take classes from all over the university. And what I did was that even though my Chinese or my Mandarin was not sort of so top notch when I got into Yenching Academy of Peking University, I actually had a thick skin, and I took and listened in on classes at not only Yenching Academy, but also at the School of Arts, the College of Architecture and Landscape, the Department of Chinese Language and Literature, the Guanghua School of Management, the Government School, etc., etc. And through this, I not only was able to explore different fields and different disciplines from the giants of, I think, Chinese academia, but I was also able to meet a lot of classmates and make a lot of friends from all over the university, which is all over China. And specifically through Yenching Academy was also able to do that with people and friends from all over the world, right? So for example, I mean, there's going to be class, and then there's going to be different activities and coffee chats that I think our academy and also, hosts. But, like in Beijing, for example, I've also been in and cross cohort meetups, right? Like with sort of 1st through 7th cohort people, maybe like joining together for a party at Halloween. And they're also in and cross cohort meetups in New York and London. So I sort of invite you into this family, because it's just one where once you join, then you will have family. all over the world. In fact, for example, my friend invited me to Berlin, and I invited him back to Manila and Jakarta, and we'll do that in 2023. And I'm thinking that for you, it might be the case as well, now that COVID is sort of not over, but it's just sort of being normalized in different parts of the world. You can travel again, and Yenching Academy after you graduate is also a site to travel out from, a kind of point and harbor of departure. So my suggestions for you in applying, I have 2 suggestions. One is that you want to think bridge and mirror. So with a bridge, for example, you take a bridge to reach from point A to point B, right? Yenching being so resourceful in terms of both knowledge, information, and also network can absolutely be a place where you reach from point A to point B, right? But what I provoke you to do is that at the same time, take your application to Yenching Academy as a mirror. So you kind of, stand in front of a mirror, you look at yourself, and I would invite you to professionally and personally think about who I am and who I want to become. And so not just kind of like, take Yenching Academy as a means to an end to sort of further your, like CV or portfolio, but more personally, deeply, what do you want? Who are you? Who do you want to become? I really challenge you to think about that, right? And the second advice I would give you is actually to think about reciprocation. Because once you join Yenching Academy, you are having a relationship with the Yenching Academy, right? It's kind of joining a family or joining a kind of institution. So then you want to think about not only what can Yenching Academy give me, which is very important, of course, but also what I can give Yenching Academy, right? Because you want it to be a give-give relationship. You want to create a virtuous cycle. You want to create a virtuous relationship, right? Like, how can I grow? And as I grow, like, let Yenching Academy grow as well. And of course, when you join Yenching Academy, everything that belongs to you will sort of like become become part of the rich resources that Yenching Academy has, and vice versa, right? So then I would really challenge you to think bridge and mirror, and also think reciprocation. So that's kind of like an overview of my time in Yenching Academy. And now I want to give you a specific case study of how I kind of created my life in Yenching Academy and also Beijing through creating this exhibition called Through Our Door Woman. So the photos that you're looking at now are the door, the outer courtyard, the corridor in the classroom and inner courtyard of Jingyuan, which Brent introduced. And to give you a little bit more context, it was actually built in 1926 by an American architect, Henry Murphy, as Yenching University's women's dormitory, right? So even that historical fact in itself shows you the kind of interculturalness of our site, and also institution of Peking University. So now it is the classrooms of Yenching Academy, right? And a teaching building and an administrative building. So in my first year, I arrived September 2020 in Yenching Academy, and I fell in love with the site. So what I did was I directed a team of 33 students across Yenching cohorts, across Peking University, and across the world to create Through Our Door, an exhibition of culture, history, and art in and about Jingyuan. So this exhibition is on-site and online. It's in Chinese and English. It includes new interviews from previous Yenching students, faculty, and staff. It includes rare archival footage from 100 years ago. It includes on-site artistic installations, as you can see from the light and shadows and the colors, for example. And making this exhibition, we really invited and still invite everyone to come into the site of 99 years that is our home and perhaps soon yours. In fact, we actually created a virtual reality, a 360-degree kind of gallery view of this space. And on this website, you can actually take a tour through our exhibition. So in fact, take a tour through your potential for future kind of classroom, right? So to kind of give you an idea about my process of building this exhibition, because I think it really shows who Yenching scholars are and also what Yenching Academy is to scholars. It was kind of a short summary is that building this exhibition is really like a dream, because I arrived in my first month, I fell in love with this site, and I had a thought to create an exhibition from and for this site, right? This Jingyuan, this Garden of Serenity. So I actually just spoke with classmates who were becoming friends during class breaks, after class, with my 班主任 Jingyu 老师, with Professor Peng, my advisor, with Brent as well, who was also, I think, my mentor throughout my 2 years, and let's say throughout my next 20 years in life. And then our thought became a one-page proposal. We pitched it to the top team of Yenching Academy, and our one-page proposal became 10 pages, 20 pages. Our team of 4 people became 8 people, 13 people, 33 people across the world. And together for the next 9 months, we essentially worked and lived together. We did 30 plus interviews. We wrote and translated over 100,000 words in Chinese and English. We cut wood and painted 95 plus cubes. And as we built our exhibition, we really built our friendship, right? Which is so important, especially during times of COVID, when sort of living and working really was half virtual and half material. And we made friends with each other, though maybe in person we never really met. And these are still friends that, if I go to India, if I go to South Korea, if I go to the US, I would be dying to meet. And so, after 9 months in May 2021, we opened our exhibition. Student teachers and professors from all over the university came. Some artists, curators, and architects from all over the city came. And our brochure, we made a brochure, even reached a Yenching University graduate in the US. So then I think reflecting on my process or story of creating Through Our Door, right? I have really 3 points of gratitude to Yenching Academy in my time there. The first is actually that you have to realize that when I proposed, and when my team proposed this idea, it was in September or October. So that's only the first or second month of arrival in Yenching Academy, right? And at that point, Yenching Academy didn't really know who I was, didn't really know who we were. But I think, and I felt, and I was sure that the team, the academy, already believed in us before they knew us. That's something I'm very grateful for. Point number 2 is that actually when I proposed to create this exhibition, Yenching had never done something like this before, right? Never made an exhibition, never made anything in particular, so they say studio art-like. And everybody, maybe tell me that they're not so familiar with the arts, but I think everybody, staff and faculty really did try their best to support us, right? So I would walk in the corridor of Jingyuan 3 or 4, and different staff and faculty would maybe kind of see me, chat with me, sit down with me for an hour, 2, 3, and then we kind of brainstorm together what we can do. I run my thoughts through them. They kind of give me their contacts in the university with different administration, for example. The top team gave us a very generous budget as well. And so that kind of support, that is both spiritual and material, I really, really appreciate as well. And point 3 of gratitude for Yenching Academy is actually that having never really done an exhibition from scratch, we didn't really know how to do it well, right? We made a lot of mistakes. So for example, we created a 64-page brochure, and we actually didn't budget in the time for proofreading. That ended up taking over 100 hours. And the social media team, for example, had to push aside their work at hand and actually work overtime with us, over 100 hours with us, to kind of create this brochure, right? And they really never made much of our mistake and were very accommodating. And I really, really learned from this experience. And overall, for myself, making this exhibition, I would really say that this is how I discovered my place and my people, created my whole life in Beijing. Because you have to imagine that coming to Beijing from Hong Kong, from Cambridge, from Berlin, it's my first time in Beijing, really, and building this exhibition, right? I had to kind of know manufacturers from across the city. I had to go to woodworking across the city, for example, and this is how I built my relationship into the city and with the people as well. All my friends really were ones who built this exhibition with me, or kind of thought through this exhibition with me, came to see this exhibition, and we became sort of like friends, acquaintances through this, right? Everyone I knew in Yenching, in Beijing, started out from building this exhibition or seeing this exhibition together. And I'm really, really grateful for that. And I'd say that even now in Manila and in Jakarta, I'm doing business, I'm doing art. Both the business project and the art project actually come out from this exhibition, right? What the task that I did for the exhibition is actually the task that I do for business now. And the kind of idea of working through a place and the people, working with a place as its people, is very much an idea that I think we're trying to materialize in the art project that I'm building now in Jakarta, right? So to kind of wrap everything up together for you, Yenching Global Symposium is flagship program of Yenching Academy. And it started out like this, right? Like just several classmates becoming friends, sitting down together, and then have this idea, pitch it, kind of like make it big, right? And eventually, after years and years, it really becomes a legacy of Yenching Academy. And for Through Our Door, I can't say that it's like a flagship program of Yenching, but then we also have different like kind of parts of our exhibition still stay through at the site, and I guess in the hearts of different kind of Yenchingers, and also kind of related staff, faculty, and cleaners and securities, right? So then, my last line for you is actually that what do you want to create in Yenching Academy, right? Because if you dare dream, Yenching is the place and the people to realize your dream. So that's my presentation, and yeah, I really, really hope to have you as part of our Yenching family, and see you in Beijing or Hong Kong or Jakarta or Manila. And thank you very much for listening.
Thanks so much, Joyce. Joyce gave the best, most interesting admissions interview that I still have seen so far in my time running the admissions here. And I think for those of you listening to her presentation today, you can probably get a sense why. To our attendees, thank you for your interest. We appreciate your attention. We appreciate your willingness to listen to us talk. I hope that you can understand that I myself, and Joyce as well, feel very passionate about this program. It will change your academic outlook. It will change your career. And for some, it might also change your life. So thank you very much. I wish you all luck and good health and continued sanity. And I hope to see your applications coming up in a couple of months. Take care and best of luck to all of you. Thank you very much, Joyce. Hopefully see you in Jakarta or in Germany or in Beijing or wherever.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. And thanks all.
Have a good day, everyone.